Patricia says, have been enforcing boundaries with friends and family as I focus more and more on my health and increasing nervous system regulation. First, we're celebrating the shit out of that.
Yep.
And the immediate family is the current latest nut to crack and woo. So I want to start right there by telling you this is the hardest part. Like the hardest place to put boundaries in place is in your immediate family. People think that that's where you're supposed to start. That is the worst place to start. If you're just putting boundaries, like just having this awareness of like, I need to start putting boundaries in place because I'm just not living the life I want to live. Do not start with your immediate family, not with big boundaries anyway. So anyway, okay. The boy child and hubs are particularly resistant, standing firm, but how to stand firm and minimize triggering myself is a current challenge because my nervous system is super sensitive and I don't want to trigger a health episode. I own my part in creating the monster. Sigh. Okay. So one, just because I want to make sure that you are not layering on more stress on your nervous system because you feel shame or frustration or guilt about having created this monster in the past. You were doing the best you knew how to do with the tools you had at the time. So just make sure that in your nervous system regulation practice, you're including that in the work. There are a couple of really great tapping videos that I recommend for this. Shame is, if you're in our community, shame is a thing that we're gonna have to work on for a while because it's been ingrained in us so deeply for so long. And I do this several times a week. So message me, Patricia, if you want me to send you some of those tapping videos. One of the things that we've learned along the way is that putting the boundaries in place has multiple steps. There's a 7-step process that we use to put boundaries in place that is a trauma-informed approach, which is why nervous system regulation is such a huge thing. If you have a sensitive nervous system, or you have chronic health issues, or you have had any kind of emotional or physical abuse in the past, this is a really crucial part about putting boundaries in place because there's so many trigger points in it. So the part I want to share here is communicating the boundaries in advance and reiterating the boundaries in advance so that you are minimizing how much you have to stand up for in the moment is a really powerful shift. I don't know if you're doing that already, but communicating the boundaries before they're happening. You can scroll down if you want to see if she's responding. So for the day of, so let's say today you know that you're going to need to be, in your home office from 2 to 4, and you know that the family needs to know that you are not available from 2 to 4. You've told them 2 weeks ago, it's on the calendar, it's on the fridge, whatever. But today is Monday, and now you have this thing from 2 to 4. You're going to need to we do text with the family text because it's easier for everybody to deal with their own emotions and their own reactions to this on their own accord, but also communicating whatever way is most effective for you, saying, I'm just reminding everybody that from 2 to 4, I'm not available today. If you knock on the door, I will not be answering. I will be available after 4 as soon as you need anything, and I will be available before 2. But from 2 to 4, I am not available because I'm doing these things. And that is it. Now, if at 2:05, 2:30, 3:30, 3:55, somebody's knocking the door and they're saying, but I need this thing, I need this thing, I need this thing, you're going to say nothing because you told the fuckers that you're not available. Okay. You're saying nothing. And if it's annoying and it's distracting and it's triggering for you, your responsibility is to take care of you in that time. Your responsibility is to say, I'm feeling activated because I feel, because of my wiring, because of my conditioning. And this happens to both of us still. And I want to be very clear and transparent about this. This is something that you're going to still need to navigate because boundaries are just as dysregulating as not having boundaries for the people that are closest in our life. And so in that experience, you're going to be able to say to yourself, I feel triggered, I feel activated. Now I'm not having these 5 to 10 to half an hour minutes left that I was supposed to have at this time, but I'm going to take care of me in this time period rather than responding to them. And this is where the shift really starts to happen. What we both have done in the past is when somebody was interrupting our boundary, interrupting that time, that space, whatever the boundary was, we would get agitated because they weren't respecting the boundary. And then we would respond to the person and go and deal with that and get frustrated and say, now I lost all this fucking time. And all of this stuff that happens because you're triggered and your boundaries were crossed, but you're still then giving them what they're looking for. And when I say that, I want to be clear, nobody's being malicious in this example. This is just the product of decades of behavior patterns and relationships. But when you instead say, I'm not available, or you send a text reminding everybody, like, I'm just reminding everybody I'm not available for another half an hour, another 10 minutes, whatever it is, then you take that time to take care of your nervous system and remind you that you are taking care of you in this time, even though you were interrupted, even though you were triggered, you're redirecting this back to you. And so this would be the practice that I would recommend, is making sure that you let them know in advance what it is that you are going to and not going to be available, when you will again. And one of the things, I mean, your people are older. When we had younger kids, when our kids were younger, we would say, we're going to be, unavailable from this time to this time. And about 15 to 20 minutes before we went into whatever, like meetings or calls or whatever we had, we would go and check with them and say, what do you need? Is there anything you need before I go into this call? Do you need help reaching something? Do you need snacks? What do you need? So that the kids, so Sandra, this might be something you can take advantage of. The kids can feel supported. And then when you come out, and I think this works with everybody, you go and appreciate the person for honoring the boundary. So after you at 4 o'clock in this example, you go and say, thank you so much for remembering or honoring that I needed this time. Is there anything that you needed while I was gone? Do you want to catch up? Do you want to take a walk? Like that reconnection is really crucial. This is a part that's so often left out of real life boundaries conversations, is that the reason boundaries are so hard is because it threatens the perception of connection. It threatens the perception of connection for you putting the boundary in place, but also for the people in our lives, because most likely the people you're in relationships with have some version of this triggered relationship with boundaries and having ownership of your time and your agency. And so that reconnection is important, just as important for you as it is for them. And it just solidifies that it's safe for you to put boundaries in place for them, in addition to it being safe for you.
I also would like to ask you to be aware of the language you're using when you're talking about the boundaries that you're setting in place, not with other people, but with yourself. So like in your question, you use the language that you're enforcing boundaries, and that also you've created a monster. And all of those two words, like enforcing and monster, that is not language that we would use to describe a pleasant experience.
I don't see enforcing.
Up at the very top.
Mm.
And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is, if that's the energy you're bringing to the experience, that's get the fuck away from me energy.
Well, it's also fear-based for you,
right?
Like it's not only fuck away from me from that for them, but also like I feel like I have to enforce this on people, and that can feel counterproductive.
It also can feel like you're being an asshole. And the reality is,
Brandon trying to be polite is hilarious.
I'm doing the very best I can. So the language you're using makes it sound to me like you're worried about being an asshole, or that you feel like you've got to fight for it. If you have language where you're worried about pissing people off or being an asshole, and also if you're worried that you have to fight for it, then the energy that you're bringing to this experience is, get the fuck away from me. This is my time. And then also, I'm really sorry that I did all of this to everybody. I'm one of the people that's responsible for creating this monster. Monsters are not typically things we want to befriend and like stroll down the street with. And so I think it would be really valuable to, in your nervous system regulation practice, give yourself permission to realize that you didn't do anything wrong, that the people in your life love and need you and don't know right now how to operate in a way where you're not always available. That's not something that we want to continue, but also I think that we can understand within that need, there's a gentleness that needs to be brought to the situation. Even if you have been doing this boundary thing, you've been trying to do it with them over and over and over again, and they have not been listening. One of the things that I feel personally is the best way to go about doing it is coming to this with a level of understanding. And this is what we were just talking to Sandra about. Although the age range of the people are different, if we show up to these experiences with a level of understanding of what is it that you need from me, or what is it that you're looking for while I'm trying to do something else, let's talk about that shit before I go do it. Like, we're all quote unquote-ish adults here. So let's be honest. Like, I mean, depending on the age bracket of your kids and all of that, like,
oh, I thought you meant us. I'm like, no, we're all adults.
No, I feel adultish today. And so like, just being able to have a genuine conversation rather than, motherfucker, I gotta work and I need you to leave me the hell alone. Like, I'm going to be doing this from this time to this time. I want to be able to support you. I'm not going to be able to 100%, but let's talk about what you need so I can go do my thing and you can go do your shit. The language you're using is creating an air of urgency and desperation around the idea of boundaries. And with urgency and desperation come panic and fear. If you can approach this with compassionate curiosity of, I understand you think you need me right now. Let's talk about why that is so that we can build an environment and a situation that serves us both. That was annoying as hell. That serves us both so that your boundaries are honored and their needs are met. And then when the boundary time, whatever it is, if it's a call, if it's an actual work project you're working on, whatever it is, when it's over, then you let them know, hey, I'm available, but not I'm available free range. I'm available for the next like 15 or 20 minutes, and then I got other shit to do. You've always got other shit to do. Every single person on this call always has other shit to do. And so being able to come to every conversation with an understanding of, I've got shit to do and you've got shit to do, let's figure that out, rather than I need you to stay the fuck away from me so I can get this shit done so we can hang out together. I don't want to hang out with you afterwards if that's your vibe. How does any of that feel, Patricia?
Lots of nodding over here, she said.
Excellent.
Awesome. So would love to hear from you what you took away, if you could, if you have the capacity, in the chat. What are your next 2 or 3 steps so that we can make sure we are, we sent you with actionable items. One of the other things you mentioned in here is, just find it again. You have an open workspace. So that can be really challenging, and I want to honor that because not every space is going to be conducive to having, a door closed where you are working. We've had plenty of those. We're very fortunate in this house for sure. Thank you, Sandra. So good. The thing to keep in mind is there are things you can do in the house. It is harder, obviously, because when we do this with each other all the time, and I'm not going to throw Brandon under the bus, but he is especially not great at that. I guess I just threw you under the bus.
At what?
When I'm in a room and I said I'm not available and you see me.
I'm fucking awful at it. No, so here's the thing.
No,
I cannot look at Tasha and not talk to her. It's fucking impossible. It's been impossible since I was 16 years old. It's going to be impossible until the day I die. And so our boundary is when she says she's got to work, I got to leave, like, in a real way. And it is one of the hardest things that I have to do all day long, especially if we're in the house and we are in a place that does not have doors. I can own that. I don't give a shit.
So Patricia, that's a really great first step, is to put yourself in a physically different space when you can. The thing we need to keep in mind is there, accessibility issues. So like for me, there are very few places I can go at 6 o'clock in the morning when I like to work. And so that's the thing to take into consideration. But having headphones that you wear so that they can visibly see, this is the sign that I'm not available for you. There's some guy that I used to follow who used to wear like a productivity cap. Yeah. That's what he called it. So when he walked around his house, because he was working from home, his family knew that you can't talk to him when he's wearing that, because he's in the middle of processing things and figuring things out. And so there are lots of physical devices that you can use.
The biggest part of using any physical device, whether it is a visual, I'm wearing headphones, I can't hear you, you can't hear me, all of that shit, or if it's actually like adjusting your physical space, you have to tell everybody what these things mean. If you're walking around your house in noise canceling headphones because you think that tells everybody else you're not available, walk into a room with a child that doesn't want to have to do something and they think you can do it better, and they'll talk to you until you take the damn things off to tell them I can't hear you. And so making sure that you tell everybody what your devices mean, like, these are my work clothes, even though I'm not leaving the house. When you see this body in sweatpants, then you can talk to me. Like, those are the kinds of things that also is a boundary. That's also a boundary device that you can use.
So, Patricia, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in there. Hopefully that was helpful. Let us know what you're taking away from it. I love it. I need to reframe my language, create time away to help me set the boundaries physically. Yes, love it.